Hello there. We are in San Diego. Obviously, we're outside the sales pavilion here. You might be able to hear some knights fighting not too far from us, doing their demonstrations here up on the sales pavilion outside area. So, sorry, we're running a tiny bit late here, and we're still getting things set up because it has been a very hectic day. I'm sure as anybody familiar with Comic Con is not surprised about, but just a very, very hectic day, and particularly hectic this year, which we will talk about in this video as well. This video will also go up as an audio-only podcast, so for those that will be listening that way, some of the visuals you may have to look in a different way, but it'll all come together there. All right, so we'll go ahead and get started now then. So we are here in San Diego. We're out on the sales pavilion, not too far away.
Actually on the mezzanine level.
Oh, I'm sorry, yeah, mezzanine level. Yeah, we were on the sales pavilion to meet up with someone and then just came down a level here to record, and at least we're in a little bit of shade. For those not familiar with the weather in San Diego right now, it's not too hot if you're in a nice shaded area like we are. But if you were out in the sun at Carmel's actually this morning, it's like 11.3 UV, so it's like instant burn. So for those watching on video, you see my face is like super red despite all sorts of sunblock the last few days, but the sun is just like cutting through. The normal, even like morning haze, we just have not been having. And so we'll talk about the Hasbro breakfast in a few minutes, but like that normally is like very hazy and almost cold. And this morning it was like being on the face of the sun or something like that. Hey there, Drew.
Chaos in Paradise.
Chaos in Paradise is it? Yeah, I think that works. So, okay, so we'll talk about preview night, and then we will talk about Thursday so far. So we did schedule this. We wanted to do this at night like we did last year. In fact, when we did our Parks and Cons Crew Patreon
in real
life tour, yeah. Several people there, because we were kind of being like, are we going to do them? It's so hard to do these late at night. And several people there were like, we like watching them like before we go to bed and kind of getting ready for the next day. And it's like, okay, we're going to do it. So Thursday night we'll be recording, and we thought we'll record like 8:30. We have the night pretty much cleared up. And then out of nowhere, we were able to, we got invited to go check out the Haunted Mansion screening that they're doing here. So someone from Disney had reached out. Yeah. And they're doing a screening, and there's going to be an off-site, and we'll get to that in a second here. But anyway, so that kind of threw the schedule into chaos a little bit. So that said, we are here recording now. So turning the clock back to preview night, we did start the day out with that, and it was a real highlight with our patrons. It was our first time doing something in real life at San Diego Comic-Con with our Parks and Cons crew. So we did a big tour, and it was a big tour. It ended up being probably an hour and a half, hour and 40 minutes around all of the builds, and it was nice catching up with everybody and talking to everybody and kind of starting Comic-Con out that way. It was actually like super meaningful and just awesome all the way around. You get to talk to these people who we, for the most part, most of them have only encountered, a lot of them just on social media and things like that. So being able to actually talk and walk, although it did get hot, and I think by the time we reached the halfway point of the walk, it was like everybody was getting pretty worn out, it felt like. I know myself included, but I thought that was a real highlight of the day, and I'm glad we did it. And I know we did a Not Scary Farm event last year. We'll do another Not Scary Farm event this year, more to come on that. But it was nice to do something at San Diego Comic-Con despite it being pretty warm. And I think we all felt, even with our water, tons of water with, I still felt a little dehydrated by the end of the walk. So
Yeah, there wasn't another time we could have done it anyways with all the scheduling and stuff. And so it was the first time, and I think people enjoyed it. So we'll see if we do it again next year. But yeah, it was definitely very cool to get to meet everybody in person and take some time in the morning and just kind of take a relatively relaxed walk around the campus and stuff, and get situated for the start of the hecticness. Although I guess we've had some hecticness kind of since Monday, but But yeah, it's been fun, and so yeah, that was a great way to start preview day morning or preview night morning. So
It was like a calm, nice way to start things. It was a lot of fun talking to all them. And then from there, we transitioned to our annual, unofficial blog, the U blog, San Diego Comic Con unofficial blog, the annual luncheon. So we did that at Basic Pizza, which was really good. And it's nice to know them because if you're familiar with the San Diego Comic Con unofficial blog, it's a team of people that are working from all around the country all year long. And we all come together, and that's really the only time we all see each other in person. And to go back to in real life is that lunch. So it was nice catching up there. And then coincidentally, while we were there, this connects to the Haunted Mansion stuff. While we were there, one of our friends on the blog, Lisa, had noticed that there was a moving truck across the street from Basic, kind of like a block down. And it was like, what's this moving truck? And usually if you see a moving truck around San Diego Comic Con, you know that it's some sort of off-site activation thing. So I'm like, well, I'm going to go. That's like what I do. Like, I just leave the meal. In fact, I missed the group picture with the cake. I missed getting a slice of cake. But, like, that's what I do. So I got up. I walked down the block. I saw a chandelier outside. And I'm like, that looks kind of like Haunted Mansion. And then I looked in the door. I kind of did a double take because I passed by an open door. And it was dark. And I was like, oh, it's dark. And I was like, wait, was that a gargoyle? And then I turned back. And if you follow us on social media, you saw the picture. It's like, wait, this is like the ballroom scene being reconstructed. And then as I noticed, there was all these little vignettes kind of being reconstructed of the Haunted Mansion there. So posted it on social media. People got really excited that there was something Haunted Mansion coming beyond just a screening. People were already excited about, but now this looked like an actual activation. And then later on, a few hours later, we got a message from the vice president of digital marketing at over Haunted Mansion and Ahsoka and some of these things, and said, hey, would you like to come out and cover this thing? And we're like, well, yeah, we would. And then, like, when is it? And it's like Thursday night. And it was like, well, coincidentally, we didn't have anything like specific we had to be at tonight. There was things we wanted to do, including doing the stream at night and podcasting at night, but like technically we can get away. So we will be doing that tonight, and we'll talk about that on the next show that we do, all about it. And hopefully it's a lot of fun. I'm sure it'll be interesting to see it and see kind of what they put together here. But that was one of those sneaky things that, like, we had no clue Haunted Mansion was coming. There's a lot of things that have shown up that we did know were coming. That was not one of them.
And some stuff that we thought were coming and then didn't come, but yeah, I think we've mentioned it before already, but a lot of the stuff is just kind of coming together later. And so when we came in on Monday, I don't think we had a ton of stuff scheduled, like offsites and appointments and stuff, but now we do, and it's gotten hectic. And yeah, but I'm not sure what else would have been going on to keep us away from Haunted Mansion, the screening and the experience and stuff. But fortunately, the decision wasn't too difficult, and we were able to put that in the plans and just have to adjust everything around it. So hence why we're here early.
Yeah. So let's jump to the floor then, and lining up for preview night and all of that. It was interesting because I think that kind of kicked off what we're finding has been a lot of people's sentiment in this first like 24 hours or so. It's just like a lot of things are not kind of clicking quite the way that we are used to, or a little bit like it just feels like some things aren't quite working the way they're supposed to. Some differences in how some things are being handled. Some doors are locked that maybe shouldn't normally be locked, and some are unlocked that maybe shouldn't. And some security is acting this way and that way, and so it's been a weird kind of day so far. So starting off, heading to the floor for preview night, we're like, well, we'll pick up our bag and our program. We always do that somewhere on preview night, never a problem. We noticed the line was a lot like longer and slower, and we're like, okay, so we just got out of line and just like, well, to this point we still haven't picked up our bag or program, and so we'll need to do that at some point. But it just got really messy, and eventually I saw it got so messy it was like lining up outside the building, which is not a Comic-Con thing at all. So something got broke there. Now, we heard from somebody that was volunteering that said they got started like 3 hours late because they didn't get cleared by the fire marshal, which is also very strange. Then when we lined up for behind Ballroom 20 to go down the Hall H side, if you watch our Comic-Con videos, you know exactly what we're talking about here. Normally, security is very much like tighten up. So like how we're recording on video is kind of how they make you. It's like you kind of almost got to be foot to foot as you're sitting there because they need to fit as many people as possible. And this they were not doing at all. They were like, take some room. And so we were like, everybody was like spread out. And so then you had some people trying to join lines late, which caused some acrimony. You had the line getting way too long because it wasn't being constricted. and security was like super lax in the area we were in, again, which is normally to me they're nice, but they're very like militant about like, we got to tighten up the line, guys, we got to tighten up the line. And this was like, they were hanging out and taking pictures of people with like lightsabers and stuff, so it was just a very different vibe. I'm not sure what the change philosophically was there, or the company or whatever, but it was just different. Then we made our way to the floor. I did do a live of that, so if you caught that, you saw some of the, you know, madness of the floor. I think we both felt preview night was pretty normal in terms of like, it was busy on the floor, like it's always busy on the floor preview night.
I heard someone commenting that it feels busier than usual, but it feels like everybody says that about preview night because they like forget, I think, that, or they confuse the days, but preview night is usually pretty crowded, and so it felt pretty normal yesterday to me.
Yeah,
and
I agree.
The floor looked, obviously it's not the same with several big booths not there, or different booths in place and stuff, but it still looked like a Comic-Con floor, and it felt that way crowd-wise, and the excitement was still there, and it was really cool to go on. So yeah, you did the live to go in, and I went straight to Hallmark because Hallmark has their great system where they only allow a certain number to get in line immediately, but then they hand out cards with a return time, so that you don't have to wait in such a long line. And so I went directly to Hallmark, I got my card, and then I kind of started to wander.
Yeah. And I can't, you know, the thing about doing the live is it's not very easy for me then to do the fun stuff, but people do like it, and honestly, I like to have it back. It's like kind of my own piece of swag to go back and watch a video and be like, oh, I went to this booth and this booth or whatever, but it's hard to kind of navigate for obvious reasons when you're doing video like that and stuff. But I did make my way. The first stop was to get the QR code from Hasbro there, so picked up the QR code for the online exclusives. Not excited about the online exclusives, and that time it was not known, so they were starting this vault, this Offsites store, and it's like, well, what's that going to be? So before we used the QR code, we went and asked, and then found they had one paper, which this was strange, they only had one piece of paper that showed the buying list, and it was kind of like the old school for the Hasbro booth buying list. So I took a picture of it because they only had one, so they couldn't give it away. But basically the Pulse Vault store has two of the exclusives. So it has the 3 3/4 inch Book of Boba Fett Star Wars Chrysanthemum Vintage Collection figure, and then they have the Transformer dual pack. And so they have two of the exclusives, and then they have two other exclusives that are online only, which is the G.I. Joe Classified figure, Chuckles, and then it is the Deadpool 2-pack. Odd to have, like, very odd. Like, I'm not quite sure what Hasbro is doing with stuff like that. Like, it was exciting that they're going to have this offsite store, but then, so what they do have at the offsite store, if you're wondering, like, well, what's in the vault? I thought maybe it was going to be, like, a lot of figures and things like that. It's tons of, like, $280 lightsabers and, like, $130 helmets, and it's basically a lot of high-end stuff. They're not clearing out like Black Series and Marvel Legends figures. So I think we'll still stop by there. We have a ticket to go by there, but it definitely doesn't hold the kind of excitement it did when we first heard that it was going to happen. The Hasbro booth in general was pretty chaotic. I did do a full video of that if you're interested. We did get to see some fun figures out. Some new MCU Marvel Legends figures were out, like Agatha. It was cool to see that figure to me, Agatha Harkness. The G.I. Joe Classified HasLab, the big Dragonfly copter, that was cool to see in person. But I think the thing about the Hasbro booth now, and this is kind of a theme for a lot of the booths seem like overcrowded, and Hasbro really, because they still have that single footprint of just the one booth to display, but now they're also shoving in things that weren't there. Like now Indiana Jones has a section, and that's a new line for them, all things considered. Dungeons and Dragons, Nerf, like there's a bunch of things they've kind of shoved in there over the years, Power Rangers even, that weren't there if we go back 5 years, and they really need like a second booth now because everybody's on top of each other, the displays are overcrowded, and it's just kind of a messy booth.
It is. It's very crowded and very compact and stuff. And yeah, they should be in a much bigger footprint, maybe even 2 or 3 times the size. Because yeah, it just, even if you took all of the attendees out, just having the employees around, which it's awesome that they're on site to like answer questions and stuff. Like the one guy who does the Mattel Live talks or whatever.
Hasbro Live?
Hasbro Live talks or streams and stuff that some watching in the past, like, oh, I recognize that guy from
Several of them.
yeah.
Live several.
And so it's awesome that they're there, but they're taking up space too, and so it's hard just to maneuver through the booth and stuff. before when they had the second lot of land or the second footprint, it was for sales. But I think they need that back just for their displays.
Yeah, they need to do something. Interestingly, DC is kind of similar. So we were excited that DC was going to be on the floor again and have their own booth, and I still am. But the booth is kind of a mess because they've integrated the merch into it and signings, and it's a small footprint. Again, it's about, I think, the size of Hasbro or maybe smaller. Skybound has a great looking booth. This is their first time kind of breaking away to their own big. It's a 2-story booth away from Image. But again, it's a very small booth that goes straight up. So it's kind of neat, like looking up and seeing these booths that have a second level to them.
They have like a recording studio there, and I'm not sure if they were doing streams or podcasts or what they were doing up there, but it looks really cool. But again, very compact.
Yeah,
so.
And because they're integrated with selling merchandise at most of them, not the Hasbro one, but the other ones, it's like, whoa, this is way too much going on to try to do signings and sell merch at the DC booth, for example. I mean, it's a madhouse over there. It's an absolute madhouse. And then it doesn't help that DC butts up against Funkville, so you have all the Funko stuff overflowing. So just really messy, even if it wasn't this weird year where Hollywood is kind of taking a break in a lot of ways from the panels and stuff with all the strikes and all of those things. It's still really weird, just kind of like, it just was going to be too crowded at many of those booths. So interesting kind of changes. There's some other booths new to the floor or just kind of some fun things. I mean, Sandland is there, which I was not familiar with, but it is from creators behind Dragon Ball, and so they are handing out some books there to get a feel for them, some of their own manga there. They're doing some pin sets, they're doing some lanyards, things like that. Crapopolis is on the floor once again, a second year Comic-Con, and they're doing these pins as giveaways there. Geiger, Ground Zero, which is the new book or the new Ashcan that they have here at Comic-Con, it's free at the booth. Jeff Johns and Gary Frank being given away was kind of fun. And then I think one of the kind of coolest pieces of swag that was kind of new, and then we'll get something kind of retro coming back, but is the Brickbuster video card. So very much like a membership card for the old Blockbuster video, but it fits with what Lego is doing. So Lego announced their booth, or they sent out a press release about a week ago, but then they embargoed it till 9 p.m. preview night. So we knew for a while that like the Brickbuster thing was coming, but they weren't showing anything with it. But it's neat because they're just like, it's totally the old kind of plasticky, like laminated cards. A really fun little giveaway to have there. Also, let me grab this. So Dark Horse returned. We were excited to see that. And I was even more excited to see that Dark Horse returned with their yellow Dark Horse bags. So they used to always give these types of bags out. They're always pretty easy to get. And they even have Hellboy, which is one of the ones they used to always have. They got Stranger Things there. So it's neat that they're handing that out at the booth. They're also doing signings at Dark Horse, which I've always loved the morning. Like if you go to the Dark Horse booth, and I have not done it this year, so maybe it's changed. But in the past, it was like they had a bag with little ping pong balls in there, basically. And you would reach in. And like maybe they're smaller than ping pong balls, whatever. They're little balls in there. You'd reach in. Okay, you got a black one, you win. You get a white one, you lose, or whatever it might be. And so they're back with those types of signings. So like Patton Oswalt was doing a signing there for his comic. Jeff Lemire for his new book. So there's a few different kind of fun ones. Mike Mignola for Hellboy. So I love those types of kind of signing opportunities where you can go and it's not a lottery through the portal where you have to kind of leave it out that way. It's something you can kind of go to in the morning. So David Dismalchian is doing a signing for Count Crowley on Sunday. So I might check that out. I have it on the list of things of maybe in the morning, like my final Comic-Con run of the week, kind of go check that out. So, but not a lot. I mean, there was the poster tubes from Fox again. I mean, but we did not experience a lot of fun, free stuff on the floor ourselves. It was a lot of just kind of, I don't want to say throwaway stuff, but like a lot of like, here's our QR code to go visit our website, which I understand why a company would do that. But as a fan, it's probably the least exciting thing to do is to get that handed out to you. Now, we'll talk about Offsites in a second, but right outside the convention center, DC was handing out the Gotham Times, like a nice newspaper, which was kind of cool. And so that was neat that they have those. And then it had that did have a QR code, but at least you were getting like an old-timey physical newspaper. And then it had a QR code that took you to Joker Vision, some app that they have, augmented reality thing. So
event. The floor has been, to answer your question, Susan, has been warm. It was warm yesterday on the floor, so it's not very comfortable. And then today, the same thing.
I think warmer today.
Well, I think probably today because we've been in there all day, whereas yesterday the floor didn't open until, 5:30?
True. Good point, yeah.
So today, it's particularly warm and not comfortable. So it's actually just before we recorded, again, we met with one of the Patreon members, and he had to just escape outside to get some fresh air because it's so warm inside. So that's also one of the weird things, but also one of the experiences of preview night and today for that matter.
Yeah, just a lot of, we knew there wasn't going to be carpet. That's kind of one of those odd, but just a lot of little things it seems like it's like if you're, trying to put a puzzle together and the piece just is not quite fitting. A lot of things like that, I feel. And we've just heard it from a lot of people, so it's not just us. So hopefully the momentum comes together for everyone in the next couple days here. But a little bit of a rough start there on the floor. After the floor, so around 8 o'clock or so, the floor closes at the floor closes at 9 p.m. We left around 7:50-ish to head over across the street to where AMC for their Immortal Universe is doing an activation, and so focused primarily on the interview with the vampire, and then also, though, I guess the Mayfield Witches is part of it as well, which I didn't catch that part quite as much in it, but is in the end trying to tie together that kind of whole universe there. And so we got in line for that activation. They actually gave some really fun stuff there. Got a bag, and then in the bag, I guess there wasn't really anything in the bag at the start, but we collected things as we went.
I think the bag just had like an advertisement, or it had a QR code for a month of AMC Plus, I think, and then there was...
That's right. We got this, which is a map of the streets of immortality, which is where we were kind of wandering through this theatrical experience. And so that was what they handed us as part of that kind of check-in process. And then as we went around to different stations, we received things like there was a notebook that was helping us to kind of investigate these immortal things. There was some spices and things to help protect us from evil spirits and stuff like that. At the end, there was a poster that was given out of some of their, they had 4 different types of key art that they're using, these posters on the activation, and so you got one of those. And there was the sheet music also in there.
Yeah, and that one was kind of cool. We're not going to spoil it and go into details of it necessarily in case anyone is watching that is going to do it, but it was, there was some interactivity, there was a whole beginning kind of scene that kind of sets the tone for things, and
it's all set Prohibition era time to kind of get a feel for it. It's up the stairs in the Hilton Gaslamp, so if you've ever been where DC Universe has been, or last year the Walking Dead celebration, and it's kind of in that center way mostly.
And the courtyard area between buildings of the Hilton Gaslamp, and so yeah, that was, I thought, very enjoyable. It definitely feels like an event, an activation that should always be in the evening because of the creepiness and the kind of vampires and all the different performances and stuff. There was some piano player and some sing. There was just several things going on. So it was really cool that we were able to experience it in the evening, but that was a press preview, so that's why otherwise I think it ends at 6, I think, of all the other nights, but it definitely would have been, it was cool to experience it at night, so I'm glad we were able to have that experience.
Yeah, and our slot ended right there at 9-ish, so we walk out and the floor has just closed, and it's the worst possible time for us to be leaving, and we're parked under the convention center. They were having, they only had one exit open for cars to exit, so it was just a line of hundreds of cars probably all together. So we basically
not moving
at all.
So.
So we basically got out of the car and it's you know what, we should eat something. So we hadn't really eaten dinner, and so we're let's go eat dinner at the Marriott. We'll just go to the quick snack. It's
one. If you're not familiar, the convention center parking that's under the convention center basically connects into the Marriott Marquis hotel, and so we just basically parked and went up over to the Marriott. So if you're not familiar, that's why we chose that hotel, because it's basically connected.
It's just connected. So we just basically parked, we went from being in line to leave to and not moving to okay, just park the car. So we parked the car again. We walk in the Marriott. It's we'll go to their little snack bar there. and get a pizza or some soup or a sandwich or something. And then it's like, I hate that when it's like all the stuff we do all these visual guides, and it's like, well, of course that's not going to work because it's 9:15 and everybody got out of the convention and everybody's doing that. But it's like, even though we do, I mean, people a lot of times think we have like all these things like solved, but we make mistakes all the time. And so it's like, not that there was anything else.
We learn from them, and then we try to warn other people to not make the same mistakes. Most of what we suggest are things that we've experienced and are trying to correct.
Yeah, and not that there was anything else to really do in that case. It was just like we needed to park the car anyway, so it was like might as well try. So we ended up actually we saw our friend Manny earlier today and asked, "Oh, what did you guys do for dinner last night?" We're like, "We had Lunchables." So we went to the gift shop and they're just like, well, let's pivot. Let's go to the gift shop, see if they have any like sandwiches or something like that. And they had Lunchables. So we had Lunchables for dinner, went back to the car 20, 30 minutes later. And then by that time they had cleared everything out. People left, they opened up Harbor, and we just left and went back to the room and got some sleep. And then this morning we had the Hasbro Press Breakfast, which the Hasbro Press Breakfast is always like a highlight to me. It's one of those things before we ever covered Comic-Con that's like, oh, Wes, there's this thing, you know, I want to go to it someday and like the Hasbro stuff. And then it went away. Obviously the pandemic didn't happen at all, but then even coming back last year, there was no Hasbro Press Breakfast. And it's like, this maybe is a thing that's not going to come back. I always thought maybe it would come back, and it did come back. You and I went to it this morning. It starts at 8 a.m., so it's kind of an early, you got to get there 7:30ish or whatever. We saw our friend Just Jen there that maybe some of you follow along with online. She covers lots of pop culture stuff, works for Lucasfilm now, but that's kind of for her and I been our like annual thing to like have breakfast there and look at all the Hasbro stuff. This was your first time there.
Well, it was my first time for the breakfast, but what was it, 2019 or 20? It must have been 2019, 2018. I was able to go to that same location for
the party
for Hasbro, excuse me, for Hasbro Pulse members, and so I had been to that floor. So it's like at the top of one of the buildings, and so it has this incredible view of Petco and the gas lamp, and from a distance you can see the top of the convention center, and it's a really, really cool, pretty location. But yeah, for the press breakfast, this was my first time, and it was kind of interesting. I mean, as we addressed, it was really warm. It was 8 o'clock in the morning or 8:30 in the morning, and it was very warm sitting outside in the sun. But apparently it's not the norm. So.
Yeah, it's the 15th floor above Petco, so you look down on Petco. So it's a really cool view, and you kind of see what you can of Comic-Con from up high. So that's always really cool as well. But yeah, normally it's nice and cool. That was not the case today. Kind of similar to the Hasbro booth as well, though. The floor, their breakfast was just kind of overcrowded with different Hasbro properties that they're trying to, push. And they're also, with it being the 100th anniversary of Hasbro, that's getting its own focus, and so that was kind of mixed in as well. So a few things that were kind of like, oh, it's neat to see the His Tank in person, the new the HasLab is going to be shipping pretty soon and things like that. But the breakfast definitely did not kind of have quite the pop that it has had some years. And the funny thing about it, when we did some videos, you can check out on the YouTube channel if you want to see like the Marvel stuff, the Star Wars stuff, things like that. I posted some other photos online. We're there actually covering with SDCC blog or for SDCC blog. So stuff on their feed additionally. But what was interesting, the thing I love the most about the breakfast every year is you get a bag when you leave, and the bag has one sample of each item. So one Star Wars Black Series.
Each property.
Yeah, one Marvel Legend figure. I mean, sometimes it'll be like a kid's Star Wars thing with it. So it's not just the properties, but different styles of figures and stuff like that. But anyway, it's just general stuff. It's not exclusives, but it's fun to get those things. Sometimes we keep them, sometimes we use them as giveaways. It's just kind of a fun thing to walk out with this bag and be like, oh, did you get the Green Goblin or Spider-Man, or what did you get? And so when we got there, that's always the first thing I'm looking at. It's like, what's in the bag? And there was no bags anywhere. And it's like, oh man. And then we look, and it's like, there it is. Everybody's going to get to go make an appointment to get a free selfie figure. And so that was the swag gift this year, was we got an appointment to get a free, make myself into a stormtrooper, or you could be a Spider Woman or whatever. And so it's like, I understand the appeal to it. I personally have never wanted an action figure of myself, so I have no interest in it. And I'm like, oh wow, like I would have totally traded this for a couple just, bottom barrel Marvel Legend figures or something like that. but it is what it is. And so we have ours for Sunday. So we'll see if we're able to, or if we actually end up going to our booth. I'm sure we will to take the appointment. I mean, it was free, but it was just kind of a funny twist. It's like the breakfast is back. I wonder what's going to be in the little bag of, random generic toys. And it's like, nope, nothing this time around. So, but it was fun still seeing the stuff there. It's fun being around a lot of collectors and seeing everybody's passion and who's into Indiana Jones and who's into Dungeons and Dragons and all of these types of things. And it was fun talking with Jen and all of that. And then we made our way back to the convention center, which was again going to be the worst time. The breakfast ended, or was ending for us at a time that was going to make it like trying to get on the floor at like 9:15, which is when everybody's trying to get on the floor. It's a mess. So we just hung back and stayed in the gas lamp, and we got to meet the Cosmo dog, the cosplay Marvel dog that everybody's been excited about. It's going to be at the Marvel booth, and people are going to be signing up for autograph session. We got to meet the dog itself, all in costume. So it was about to go on the news. Yeah. That was a lot of fun. It was just like such a cool thing. It's like I was never going to fight people out to go see him at the Marvel booth. I think maybe it is today or maybe it's tomorrow, but seeing him at there and having no wait and being able just to pet the dog was a lot of fun. So I actually put some video of that on the YouTube channel too, in case people want to see Cosmo, because that was fun and cute. We saw Snoopy out there for the Camp Snoopy store and some cosplayers and stuff, so that was all neat. And then the floor opened and we made our way over and did a little bit of a loop. Didn't do a lot. We started doing some rows, and we're trying to get in. We have our rule of seeing every booth, and we're trying to see every booth, and we're starting to carve away at it. That's particularly without the carpet. It's really tough on the feet and the back and the knees and everything. So it's like take some breaks in there. So we did a few of those, but it wasn't much time because then we had to get to Mayhem, which is the Hulu activation behind the convention center. So then we made the walk over there. So there's been a lot of walking because the Hasbro breakfast is out like past Petco and then back to the convention center, and then behind the convention center for that, and then back to the convention center. And
real quickly, yesterday I don't usually walk as much as Sean does for for its build days and stuff, but yesterday I walked 9.75 miles. I walked almost 10 miles yesterday, and today I'm not quite there, but I was at 5 miles when I checked earlier. So it's been quite a bit of walking for us.
Yeah, it is the downside of doing the offsite stuff too. Is just there's more. You just have to walk. I mean, like when we go to the Haunted Mansion thing today, the screening is several blocks away, and then the event or the pop-up activation is several blocks away from that. And so it's kind of how, and it all takes time even when you've got those appointments, stuff like that. So, but nevertheless, Mayhem made her way there. Hulu, new site. They're making it really a push of like you're going into the second dimension. And so the whole thing is like you're being transformed into, this cartoon world. So it starts out with a photo op in the front, make your way in, and now you're being shrunken down, and then basically it's just kind of you're going from scene to scene. So you're going from Solar Opposites, you're going into, there's Futurama, of course, Bob's Burgers, Simpsons. Some of the scenes much more involved than others. I think Solar Opposites and Futurama were like the big pushes where there's like multiple photos for those ones, whereas something like, let's say, Family Guy, it's just kind of the family to do a photo with them in the couch, or Simpsons likewise. Bob's Burgers, it's just there's Bob and the family and they're at the bar there, and so they're flat figures, and there's always a Hulu employee on hand to help you and take your photo of them. The big thing about it, like, it was fun seeing these different opportunities. I mean, it was very photo based, but there was a lot of swag, and like really, really good swag. So like there's pins at the beginning and the end, and we forgot the ones from the beginning of the card, but they are from Solar Opposites. They're the little people from Solar Opposites. And then at the end with the Futurama pins, which for those
that live in the wall.
That live in the wall, yeah, the miniaturized people. And then so for those watching, Carmel's showing the Futurama ones. You get those at the end, another pin set where they're all like eggs. Then got like a backpack bag, like an actual like real backpack, green and white, and kind of, I mean, obviously it's like Hulu color, but also like cartoon. So it's like you are in a Hulu cartoon, but I mean, it has a zipper. We thought the Hulu canvas bags at Anime Expo were nice. They're just like kind of more simple, handbags, but this is like an actual like backpack. Actually, now I think about last year, 2022, we saw Hulu do pretty nice bags. But again, not quite as nice as this, but at Anime Expo. So Hulu is like into nice bags. These are not like things that are going to just rip and fall apart real quick. There's some high quality stuff.
I wasn't sure if everybody was going to get them or if it was going to be for for different, or if you had to do something specific to get it or whatever. So I was very anxious about it, or not very anxious, but I was kind of like very inquisitive.
Are we gonna get it? Yeah.
Yeah, I was hoping to get it and stuff, and I wasn't sure, and it wasn't until the very end. But I'm not sure of the brand, but like I've had like these 2D type bags before and stuff, and I really thought it was really cool looking, and with the colors even and stuff, and so I was hoping we were going to get it, and then at the end we got, and then there was also, wasn't there a poster? Yeah, there was a poster, but I left that in the cart because I rolled it up in the poster too. So several really cool
Really
things.
nice swag, yeah. The pace seemed better. We had a press appointment. It still took a little while in a line, but it was pretty fast. But the regular line itself seemed to move at a decent speed during the time we were there, given that it's a photo op experience where you're going into multiple rooms where people are stopping. I think it's because it's so spread out. So I thought it was a pretty good pace for what it is. But at the end of the day, anytime an experience is a lot of one-on-one, whether it's photo ops or interactive stuff, it's just going to take a little longer though. But it seemed like a pretty good move. And I mean, at the end, you're definitely walking away with a lot of stuff. And if you are a fan of things like Futurama or Solar Opposites, you're going to be pretty happy to get some of these exclusive swag items.
And I don't know if they brought enough for everybody or how that's going to work, or if they'll start to just rotate in, but everybody was getting the same thing. It wasn't just because we were pressed that we got all the items. Everybody was getting that,
Yep.
so I thought that was really cool.
Excellent.
And they were, I don't know if this will continue either, but they were handing out waters to everybody because, again, it was very warm, and they have been fans along the line to help people cool down, but again, you're still out in the sun, and so I appreciated the water bottles that they gave us. They were just the little mini ones, but it was still good. Nice that they were giving out water too.
Yeah, very nice activation there, I thought, all in all. And then we went and took a quick lunch break because we were pretty dead from all the walking of the floor and walking out to Hasbro and walking to Mayhem and all that. We went over to Hudson and Nash at the Hilton Bayfront. We sat next to Jim Zub, the comic writer, came and sat down next to us and was having a business meeting. And we're not going to divulge any of the conversation from there, but it's always the interesting thing about eating at Hilton Bayfront, because I feel like every time we eat there, we're near somebody during Comic-Con. Yeah, we're near someone having a business meeting about some toy or comic or movie or
Many
TV show
years
they're working
ago,
on.
we saw like M. Night Shyamalan,
Yeah, M. Night Shyamalan was just a
there,
couple
and
tables over.
different people would go to eat there. So
Yep,
it was
so
fun.
Jim's up, the big-time comic writer, was there, and so that was kind of interesting that we were sitting next to him. And then we made our way over to Hall H for Project K. So Project K, big deal, bringing India's cinema to the Hall H stage. And so in this year, that's a very strange year of not having big movie studios here from Hollywood and all of that, it was like, okay, let's check this out. We were excited. They actually sent out a really nice kind of detailed press release in advance, kind of what their schedule was. And you can see in it that they were planning to actually have a performance and all of that. And the idea with Project K was like, we're going to get information about this new project coming from these Indian filmmakers. And so they kind of set the stage. First there was music, and I should say we have video of several pieces of the panel up on the YouTube channel. We couldn't take any footage of the screen just like normal, just like if Marvel's there or anything, so they did show a teaser which looked really good, like a really great fun sci-fi adventure movie, but obviously we weren't allowed to do any video of that.
And also, they don't allow they don't allow anybody to stream the full panels, and then also we can't do full video. I think there's a time limit of how much we're allowed to post, and because we want to maintain our press status with Comic-Con International, we follow those rules, even though there's probably someone out there who did post it or whatever, but so yeah, you'll see like snippets and stuff on the channel, but that was really fun, and energetic.
Great
and starting out with kind of the I can't remember the exact name of the symphony that they had, but for the performers, and then the people with the candles and stuff.
Yeah.
It was just really fun.
They had
nice
the troopers
way to
out. I
start
actually had seen the troopers the day before. They were in their full, like, it's black gear with red lit eyes. In fact, the director had said, he's like, I'm just going to call them Indian stormtroopers because that's what everybody's going to call them anyway. And so he was calling that, but they were like wandering the audience as the panel was going on. It would like, come by and pose for a picture, things like that. But I mean, it was a big time panel, and they did a lot of education during the panel too, of like, this is what's special about Indian cinema. this is where this sci-fi film fits in the world of this. This is what we've been working up towards, and just a lot of icons of entertainment from their world there at the Comic-Con stage. It was just it felt like a really cool like learning experience of like they were really enamored with Comic-Con and like learning what this meant. And there was a few comments about like learning from their kids of like, oh, Comic-Con's a big deal. Didn't know what a big deal it was, and we're honored to be here. Then on our side as the audience, a lot of people like, oh, this is somebody who's worked in film, you know, in India, doing all sorts of incredible things in sci-fi for over 50 years. Like these are, you know, big time players here. And so it was a really awesome panel.
Yeah, I really appreciate it. They did like this kind of big highlight reel kind of like lots of Indian cinema and stuff.
Yes.
And it was, I mean, on it, to be honest, the only one that I like actually recognized and like remember where it came from was there were a couple segments from RRR. But the rest of it was just this really cool highlight reel, again, as I think as a way to educate the audience if they weren't familiar. But it was, I thought, really energetic, and I really enjoyed it. I kind of wouldn't mind seeing that again, just the different things that they were putting in from lots of different eras and movies and stuff. So much of the audience was like super excited. The girl sitting in front of us, she was like practically coming out of her seat. She was so excited, and it was really fun to just be in a Hall H panel where, you know, there were such significant actors and stuff. And as with lots of things, when I'm not super familiar with it, it's like I have like an appreciation for, you know, the significance, but it always takes me a little while to like kind of process it and really kind of understand it and stuff. Whether it's, you know, when we go to comic book panels and stuff, and it's like I'll recognize the name, but I don't like necessarily read their work or whatever. I still enjoy it and learn from it, and that was definitely the case with this panel. It was really fun, and it was a little interesting that Paravis, is that how you pronounce his name? He was there, and everyone was super excited for him to be there, but he like really didn't say too much. At one point, they tried to like specifically ask one question on the stage and get him to respond, and he just kind of grunted a little bit. And he responded a little bit,
deferred,
but I'm not sure if he was uncomfortable in that venue or if he wasn't expecting to answer questions or what. But it was just a little kind of awkward or whatever that he didn't say much. He just kind of sat back, and it didn't seem like he was like disgruntled or anything. It just, for some reason, I don't know if he wasn't expecting to. I'm not sure what the situation was, but it was kind of interesting. But it was still cool to like be able to take photos and stuff of him.
Yeah, it was a really good panel, a lot of fun. It was neat to see them there, and what a cool, I mean, it'd been cool to have them there any year, but I think this year they got this extra focus because there wasn't, you know, all of these other things that it was kind of slammed in between. I mean, there was Spider-Man 2, the Sony video game, coming up after it and stuff, but I think it got a really good spotlight there. Hopefully it gets a lot of great press from the weekend. Hopefully they love their time here, and hopefully it opens the door to more of that type of cinema at Comic-Con and beyond. And so from there we went to the floor. We met up with a lot of people that we owed like swag bags to, different Patreon people and stuff like that were like, okay, we'll see you at San Diego. And so we saw him at San Diego. We went and saw our friend Steve at his booth. He's got a great toy booth on the floor here, so we checked that out. Caught up with him for a little bit, just caught up with a handful of different people on the floor, and then rushed over to do this show. And so at this point, our next move here is basically probably grab a bite to eat and get changed and go to the Haunted Mansion premiere or screening or whatever we want to call it. And then that goes pretty late. The activation goes till 1 a.m. Not that we're going to close it out, but that's what it goes to. It starts at 10 p.m., so it'll be a bit of a late night. Tomorrow, we're supposed to do Quantum Leap HQ, the activation in the morning, although today they had a lot of technical difficulties and opened an hour late, and everything got pushed, and a lot of people just didn't get to do the experience so far at this point today. So they've had a lot of issues over there, so I'm not sure if we'll actually go into it. They actually changed our time and made it an hour earlier, so we'll see how that fits into things. Also, we'll probably go by the Hasbro Vault to take a look at that store. We might go by the Lanford Lunchbox. There's a Star Trek signing I'm kind of interested in. We'll see about that. And then the big thing of the day will be Funko Fun Days at the end of the day. And so Funko Fun Days is actually right out behind us where we're recording here, not too far at the Rady Shell this year, which is a brand new location for them. So we'll see how that all works out. But with as hot as it's been and with the sun kind of piercing, that lineup time is going to be pretty long, pretty long, I think, and kind of challenging. So we'll see how that goes.
Yep, and then our plan is to do another one one of these live talks on Saturday
night.
evening.
Yeah, Saturday evening.
To discuss what we do on Friday and Saturday. And then Sunday we'll do a wrap-up one. Once
that'll
probably
be the big
back from
show.
the room in that on Sunday evening at some point, because I think we have a dinner before we'll be recording. So I'm not sure exactly of the timing, but yeah, we'll see if anything else pops up in this whole in this weekend and stuff, because as we said, things have been popping up and it's all kind of pivoting and being flexible.
Yeah. This year probably more than ever, it's critical, and we knew that coming in. It's just it's going to be interesting there. So we see Drew in the chat, adapt and pivot the Parks and Cons way. Yes, thank you there. Just missed y'all this morning at the restaurant at Hard Rock. Oh, sorry, we didn't miss you there. So, all right, we are going to wrap up this show here then. Thank you for tuning in. We're sorry for the weird time for those of you that joined us live in the streaming world. For those of you watching at night, hopefully you had a great day at Comic-Con or wherever you were watching Comic-Con. We hope you had a great time. For those of you listening audio, hope you enjoyed it as well. So with that said, we'll go ahead and wrap up here. And next time, we'll see y'all somewhere in line.